as of effective February, that was last month. And so this is expected to increase all the way to 2026. And just understanding, as much as young as you are, do you really need to know about matters pension planning? And the question of the day for you is, do you have any questions regarding pension planning? Throw in all those kind of questions. You probably get to hear matters pension. Nadhani ni conversation ya wazazi. I was telling Fred earlier on, because they're so gray hair, should really be listening on to this conversation. But even as much as you're young, you started to work as young as you are, like probably 2021, do you really need to know matters pension planning? And I have the sharpest mind for this conversation, Victor Ndago, Supervisor, Pension Administration, Kenya Orient Life Assurance Limited. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you.
Kwa salama?
Kwa salama.
Maisha inakupeleka vizuri? Maisha
inaendelea vizuri.
Sawa sawa. Tuongelea maneno ya pesa vizuri leo, and a conversation that many people really, ukiangalianga payslip yako, unaona a certain amount of money has been deducted. Unaambia hiyo ni NSSF, depending on how much one earns. But then and it's a whole conversation that we have. Una save here until you retire and everything. But first off, what is a pension plan?
Thank you. Pension plan, as you have said, is a very is saving for the future, because you have to know that at one point in time you'll have to stop working, and that point you need some money to cushion you. So that saving for the future that is required of you is what we are calling pension planning, and you have to prepare for it, because at one point in time, let me tell you one thing. There are three certain things in life once you are born. One is death, two is taxation, and three, retirement. So we have to prepare for it.
So is everyone supposed to, is everyone in this whole category of thinking about a pension plan? Does it cater for some, does not cater for others?
As I have said, pension is for the future. And you may think that you're young today, but in the near future, you'll have to be old. So everybody should be involved in this conversation, whether young, you're old, whichever age you are, so that you make sure that you have a good future plan for you.
What if you're not employed? You have your side job right now, mtu wako pale anapiga smoky mind, everything, ama ni mama mboga. Do they also get into this conversation? Because, well, typically when you talk about matters NSSF, they always tell you the employer, employee, how much you earn, and everything. But now, what if you're not employed?
Can I ask you a question? If you're not employed, does it mean that you're not going to get old? Certainly, you will have to get old. And even if you are mama mboga, there's a time that you will stop cutting that mboga and you have to go and rest. That particular time, you need more money, because now you are not actively involved in that kashop yako and even in all the activities that you are doing. So this kind of conversation, everyone is involved. And that is why this issue of NSSF, though currently it is for the employed, but even those who are in informal sector, this is a conversation that they need to get. Let me tell you some statistics, that currently it is around 2 to 3% of the people in informal sector that are involved in it. Or the employed, around 25% of it. So imagine a whole over 70% of the population is not involved.
It matters
of planning for their future. So we need to have this conversation so that those who are not employed, they need also to prepare. And as you cut that mboga, or you are in your shop, the little profit that you get, you should save it. And you see, you will also enjoy the benefit of compounding. Yes.
And this is interesting because according to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC says in the whole formal sector now, the normal retirement age should be about 60 years of age, naturally. So and what you're telling us, so 70% of the population, when they reach 60 plus, they say, I am going to be depending on my family, what I thought at that time. So typically, a huge percentage of people, when they reach that age, they don't really have a plan.
Sure. Now, what happens in this case is that there are some of the things that has led to why this low uptake of this pension. And one of them is that when somebody is young, this person feels that it is not the right time to save for the future. And all of a sudden you find yourself, if you are unemployed, you are told that your time has reached, now you have to go home. And then you find yourself, oh, I need to sort myself. So all of a sudden you'll think that even if I am not working, then I will be sorted by my people. And that is what is bringing a lot of dependency ratio in this country.
Right. So, Ndagu, let's now break it down, because we've established that quite a huge percentage don't really have this whole pension plan. And mostly in the whole informal sector, which really is a huge percentage of people. So I want us to break it down into two setups of a young guy, a lady who one scenario is not in the formal sector, not employed. Yeye ni wale wa kutafuta jubo hapa na pale tu, kama ni kuuza, kama ni mama mboga nini, all that in the whole informal sector. And the other scenario is for someone in the formal sector, employed, probably in a ministry, for example. And let's say this hypothetical, so this young lady is about 22 years of,
Use 25.
Yeah, 25. Yeah. 25 is good, right? Let's use 25. So let's start with the formal sector. So how does this person come up with a pension plan? Because, we've established in the next 60 years, this person, or rather at 60, this person should be anafaa kusaini leave to retirement, akiwa tu sherehe aseme mimi nimefanya service yangu and I'm done.
Yes.
So at 25, so that's in the next 35 years.
Yeah, sure.
So let's understand, at 25, how is this person making a pension plan?
Oh, thank you. Now, let's look at it in two ways. When you are employed, not even all employers are having this pension plan.
Okay.
Because it is not mandatory. The only thing that is mandatory is NSSF. Now, if you have an employer who is having a pension plan, that is the best. And for that particular...
as an alternative, apart from now, the NSSF deduction, so having an alternative pension plan.
Yes, they have an alternative pension plan other than the mandatory, which is NSSF. Now, this will depend. Most of the employers use a percentage. Let's say 7.5 or 10% of your gross pay or basic pay, and then the employer matches that. So each and every time, whenever your salary changes, then the figures will also change. And this will help you as you go along until you retire. Now, for somebody who is not who is not formally employed, this is somebody who can now look into an individual pension plan, which is also offered by the players in the market, and most of them are the insurance sector, as well as there are also other players in the market that also offer, like the administrators. So pension administrators. For individual, is it? For individual.
For individual, is it the same deductions? Is it a monthly deduction kind of setup, like the one in the formal sector?
No. So for individual, it's a decision that you make and an arrangement. So you can decide that this month, depending on your cash flows.
Right.
So this month you have 10,000. Next, even in between, you can make several payments depending on your cash flows. So the more you get, the more you put. And then after that, there will also be a time that you may not have something. In pension is an investment, it doesn't lapse. So with this, it will help you that during that time that you are not having enough cash, you will cushion yourself, and for that particular time, you may even decide to reduce the reduction, the contribution,
the contributions,
or take some period.
Okay.
And then once you are okay with your finances, you get along with it again.
Right. So Ndago, I'll ask you to help me in standing as well. Mimi na feel ni kama miguu imeanza kuchemka, but anyway, we are still young, so nitaomba pia usimame.
Yes.
And even as you do that,
yes,
remember back at home you can throw in all those questions that you have concerning matters, pension planning, and how to plan for your future. It talks about you really need to plan for your future when you're about 60 years old. Na uko pale unasema mimi niko sorted, or rather you didn't actually plan for your future, or rather actually you're about to hit 60 years old and you're wondering how do you do this. My colleague Freddie Nimuri is about 55 years old of age. I don't know if he has that pension plan. But anyway, so 0795-045-864 is the number to call in live. Victor Karibia Pale.
Okay.
So last month,
yes,
NSSF had the whole contribution rates. And they said, according to the lower limit, about 7,000. Let me Karibia hapa. So according to the lower limit, about 7,000. Capping at about 420, and the upper limit about 36,000. Initially, it was about it was less than 36. It
was 18,000.
It was 18,000.
Yes.
The lower limit was 6,000. So if you earn 36,000 plus, you are deducted 1,740.
Yes.
So what I need for us to do here is, because we had established for this 25-year-old to muite Brayo.
Yes.
Fine. Tweeted Brayo. So
can I write here, Brayo?
Yeah. So Brayo works in because he had two scenarios.
Yes.
One, either Brayo decides to get into informal sector,
yes,
or formal sector.
Yes.
You've told us for the formal sector, there is the mandatory NSSF deductions, the monthly deductions. If it is informal sector, yes, sasa amue Brayo ende atafute insurer naitwa, let's say, Nyaringita and Company,
Kenya Orient Life Assurance Limited.
Ama yendu pia.
Yes.
Yes. So aingie hapo ataambia this is how we will work it out. But let's start with the formal sector and understand. So for example, this formal sector, let's just know has a very good job in one of the ministries.
Yes.
And he earns about 45,000 Kenya shillings.
Yes.
So right now, as of now, he's going to be deducted 1,740.
Yes.
And the employer tops up 1,740. The total equate 3,480. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
480.
Yes.
Yes.
So 1,740 mekatwa. Yeah, 1 month.
Yes.
So nitaka tuelewe, because it's 25,
yeah,
until all the way to the next 35 years, how big of a deal is this 1,740 right now?
Thank you so much. Now, let me get to you back just in a minute. Mm-hmm. We need to understand how this 18,000, 36,000 came about. Mm-hmm. So in 2013, when this law of NSSF Act
yeah,
was supposed to be enacted and come into play in 2014, by that time the national average earning was 36,000 Kenya shilling. So now, for its implementation, it was to take a 5-year plan. Now, the first year was to take the 50% of the average national earning. Right. So that one was 18,000. Now, the contribution for NSSF is supposed to be 6% of your pensionable earning. Now, that means, and then the lower limit by that time was set to be 6,000. So when you multiply 6% with this 6,000, you are to get 360 shilling.
Okay.
Now this is the lower limit.
So that's what you, in the lower limit of if you earn 6,000,
Yes.
6,000 and below.
Yeah, 6,000 and below. So let me tell you something here. Now, this NSSF Act brought into two tiers, Tier 1 and Tier 2.
Okay.
Now, Tier 1 was to ensure that all the contributions are made to NSSF.
All right.
And then anything above Tier 1, which is now termed as Tier 2, is either you take it to NSSF or you contract it out to a private pension plan.
That's for Tier 2. So that's
Tier 2.
So Brian can.
So Brian
can decide to.
Not him.
Oh no, not him, but the
employer of Brian can decide that the 1,740 is taken to a private institution that is offering pension, and one of them being Kenya Orient. And the reason why they can decide to have this is because these private sectors have superior interest rate.
Is the public industry.
Yes.
Because we had said, for example, Brian works in a ministry.
Yes.
One of the ministries. Can the public sector also have that option of
opting out?
Opting to now
the private sector.
The private sector.
Yes, the law is very clear. Yeah, so long as you are in a public sector or private sector, the employer is ready, is allowed to do that.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the industry statistics in 2022, because 2023 we are yet to publish the financials, the average rate of return that was declared was around 8.4%. Now, in private sectors like Kenya Orient, we declared a rate of 11%.
Of pensionable...
yes, the interest for that period.
Okay.
So imagine if you are having, for example, 100,000 Kenya shilling at the beginning, and you didn't make any contribution in between, then you will automatically get 11,000 times 11%, you will get 11K. This will be compounded the following year. Now, because of this good interest rate that is offered by this private sector, then the employer can decide that let me opt out for the benefit of my employees. Because each and every employer needs to have that concern of how will their people retire and enjoy their golden years.
Okay.
So now let's get to NSSF. Now, this is the same idea that the government was having, that they have to ensure that by the time you are not actively involved, you are not disturbing people, or you are not cursing your children because that they are not giving you money. You are comfortable, and you can say, and in fact, you pray for them so that they can be able, wanawiri, as compared to them, you cursing them that they are not giving you what? Money. So when you look at this scenario, I want to now bring it to the table of an SSF.
Okay.
So the first year was we have lower limit and we have upper limit. The first year, which was supposed to be 2014, but now was implemented in 2023, February, the lower limit was 6,000. The upper limit was 18,000. Now this figure in the second year is supposed to double the upper limit. So the lower limit for second year would be 7,000. The other one will be
36,000, yeah.
The third year will be 8,000. This one will be 72,000. So
for efficiency again, you can write here, let's say 2023.
2023.
For someone to understand, 24.
25.
So it goes all the way to 2026.
2026. In fact, 2027.
Okay.
No, this okay. This is, yeah, so this is
2026, yes.
So this is 2026, which is 9,000. And then this is around 108,000. So what you do, the rate is supposed to be 6%.
So naambiwa advice tuandike handwriting kubwa kidogo for, you know, when you have this conversation.
Yes.
Na mtu wako pale nyumbani amefika hii umri ya retirement.
Yes, okay.
Najaribu kuangalia naona hii handwriting.
Ni kidogo.
Uongeze kubwa kidogo. But anyway, remember back at home also you can call in live 0795-045864 is the number to call in live so that you can also understand how do you have a whole pension plan, maswala ya deductions ya NSSF, how does it go about? Call in live and ask all those questions and even the comment that you have. Tell us where you're calling us from, mute TV ama songa mbali kidogo and be audible enough as you call in live. Tuendelea, so this so right now we are at this year.
We are at this year.
7,000 for the lower, 36,000.
So let me compute for you what will be deducted from your payslip. So this amount will be 6% of this, which is 420. Now, how do you arrive at the upper limit? Now, it will be 36,000 minus 7,000, that gives you 29,000. Then you multiply by 6% will give you 1,740. So the same applies. Now when we go to the next year, which is 2025, the lower limit will be 8,000 times 6%, that will be for 80.
So that means by next year,
yes,
around March, a time like this, if you earn less than 7,000 below,
yes,
payslip yako utaona wamekata 480.
No, that is up to a maximum. So it will depend that, you know, the reason why it is capped to 7,000 is to give the freedom of opting out. If it is at 7,000, this 420 has to go to NSSF. As you know, at the initial NSSF was 200. Now that means that this 200, if we are not talking about the upper limit, this 200, the 200 has been enhanced to 420.
420.
Yes, so employer contributes 420 and you also contribute 420. That is for your pension. Now, and then this one here, if the employer has not opted out and has gone to a private sector, then he has to take the whole this amount to NSSF.
Okay. Wacha tuende Kayole. Sharon na Tieno, habari asubuhi?
Nzuri sana.
Watu wa Kayole mnaendeleaje?
Tunaendelea salama kabisa.
Do you have any questions kuhusiana na pension plan or maybe a comment?
Okay, comment niko nayo. Na swali pia. About tuseme mtu mwenye kwa nyumba anaweza save hiyo cushion.
Mtu mwenye kwa nyumba?
Tuseme ni housewife.
Okay. In short ule mwenye ule kwa informal sector.
To save. Yeah.
Sawa. I hope Victor umepata hiyo swali?
Kweli.
Haya. Sharon Atieno, utakuwa unapata hiyo jibu sahihi tu. Kama tumepoteza Sharon for her other comment on that. But we had alluded on that matters the informal sector, but we'll be getting into that.
Sure.
In a few.
Sure.
But then ndio pia Sharon anaweza nini unaweza mjibu.
Okay. Now, for somebody like Sharon, informal sector is also involved in this pension. Na hata kama wewe ni mtu ambaye anakaa kwa nyumba, let's say you are there and you are assisting the kids and what have you. But kuna ile pesa ambayo inabaki. And the sector has made it very easy that you can do as low as even 500 shillings per month. And as this, ile pesa ambayo umepata, unaweza weka akiba kidogo and then ikifika mwezi hata ufai you don't even need to wait up to the end of the month. Ile wakati umepata, unafanya nini? Unaweka huko. Now, let me assist her the way she can get in touch.
Okay.
First, there are several players in the market. One of them being Kenya Orient, and we are offering individual pension plan.
Allow me to pick this call. Okay. From Bondo. Philip, habari asubuhi? Philip?
Nasema?
Yes.
I'm working the county government of Siaya.
Tafadhali rudia.
I'm working county government of Siaya. Unanipata vizuri?
Unaweza paza sauti kidogo ndio alafu tukupate sasa vizuri.
Sasa nasema nafanya na serikali ya Siaya.
Okay.
Sasa mnaongea about NSSF. Because my employer anakata 12%.
Anakata how much percent ngapi?
12% of my basic, of my gross.
12%, okay.
And then employer wangu wana contribute 15%. And then hiyo 6% anasema hapo pia bado nakatwa. Alikuwa anasema it's alright kama employer wangu ananikata 12%. Sasa hiyo 6% singekatwa. That's hiyo ndio tunataka kujua vizuri tu nafanyika aje.
Venye payslip inakaa na venye hizo percentages venye zinakatwa ya employer.
Because NSSF inakata 6%. Na employer anakata 12% for my pension plan. But I thought otherwise because as per the act ilikuwa kama nakata 12%, hiyo nyingine ningewachiwa upande mwingine. And as advice sijui itakuwaje.
Sawa. Asante sana Philip kutoka Bondo. Salimia tu Bondo ya asubuhi.
Right.
Unaweza saidia Philip aje?
Now, for Philip, this employer was having a pension plan before. Now, in fact, it is an advantage to Philip. Because for NSSF is compulsory.
Okay, I think we can now have a clean page so that ueleze Philip vizuri how advantageous it is for him.
Yes, so now the employer is deducting 12% for him. And NSSF is 6%. Now, as we have said previously, that this is capped to Tier 1 and Tier 2, which is for this year is 3480, which is supposed to go to NSSF. Now, this 12% will depend on his salary. So let's say, on assumption that he is having 100K, on assumption.
He said he works in Sia's government?
Yes, county government.
County government, yeah.
Yes, so on assumption that he's earning 100K, the 12%, this will be around 12K.
Okay.
12,000. Now, this 12,000 will be compounding for the rest of, or for the period that he is working. Let's say he will be working.
So this 12K goes to his pension?
To his pension. And then this 3480 goes to NSSF. But please note that both NSSF and pension are all your money. It is not going somewhere. We may be seeing it now that this figure inakata payslip na unaenda na pesa kidogo. But when we started, we said that for us to have a golden year, or especially enjoy our life in future, we must save. And let me tell you something. We have what we call income replacement ratio. Currently, RBA is targeting 35%, while the best income replacement ratio should be between 60% to 75% of your earning at the moment that you are retiring.
Okay.
So assume that I'm retiring today and I'm at 100K. That means that on a monthly basis, I should be getting at least 60K to 70K.
After now you retire?
After I have retired.
Okay.
But currently, the income replacement ratio is at 20%. So imagine that now your expense, you're spending 100K, but when you retire, when at the time that you need more money, you're only getting 20K. Are you seeing that there's an issue there?
Right.
So in as much as, in fact, we need to appreciate the employers who are having this private pension as well as NSSF, so that by the time that we are retiring, we will have peace of mind.
So that even Philip from Bondo can understand how all this works, because so this is, let's say, for this 2024.
Yes.
But then, assumably, maybe Philip is about, let's give him maybe 35 years. 35 years working in the county government of Siaya.
Yes.
So he has about
25 years to
25 years to retire. So let's say in the next 25 years, he's still in the formal sector.
Yes.
And that baby figure remains as is. So how much will he be having now when he reaches 60?
Yes. These are a template that I need to use so as to show how much Philip will get when he reach at 60.
Right.
So we'll just get there.
Okay.
But let me advise Philip again. If you look at 12,038.40, this is tax relief. Because when at the point that you are being paid your salary, if you are earning 100K, 12,000 plus 3480, which is 15,480, will not be taxed at the point you are getting your salary. And then when you retire, each and every year, you are also getting a tax relief of 60,000 for the next 10 years. So imagine if you have saved 1.5 million, 600,000 of it is not taxed. Isn't it advantageous to you? It is. So these are some of the things that we need to understand, especially those who are working in formal sector, that yes, payslip inaweza katwa, but in the near future, we will have a comfortable life that you can go to Diani Beach, you go where you want, you go to Dubai, you enjoy your life.
Right.
Yes.
And because you'd mentioned about having that whole format of looking at all this and commuting it.
Yes.
All right, I'm being told Philip is back. Na ni kama ameona how you're describing this. Philip, baada asubuhi tena, uko na swali lingine ama ni maoni?
I just want to make a comment.
Okay.
Wacha nikuwe fair.
Punguza sauti ya TV tafadhali, alafu unaweza paza sauti.
Sawa, nasema I want to be fair to my employer. Nasema I want to be fair to my employer.
Okay.
Because my employer anakata 12%. And then he gives me 15% of my gross. Nilikuwa nataka hiyo kuwe clear, so I don't want to be biased.
Okay.
Anakata 12%. Anakata 15%. 6% for NSSF. 6% pia ananipea.
Philip, in fact, that's an employer that you should even be happy of, because if he's giving you 15% of your salary and you are being deducted 12, imagine that now each month you are getting 27% of your pay. Yes, unaumia saa hizi, but look at this. At the same time you are getting the tax relief, you are not being taxed the whole amount. Like now the 12% that I've computed here. It will still a bit cushion you. And you see, as we go along with time, it's about planning.
Na labda Philip, kabla uende, labda nikuulize, sijui kama unaweza ruhusu tukuulize how much maybe cause sisi tuliassume tukaandika 100,000. Unaweza tuambie maybe ile kwa payslip ni ngapi labda ama roughly, ndio sasa tuweze kuelewa na pia aweze kuelewa venye hesabu inakaa.
Around 75.
Okay.
Pardon?
Amesema around 75.
Around 75.
Hapo ni that.
Tuone kama ita.
Swali lingine tena.
Around 75.
So wacha tuone venye akufanyia hesabu.
So 75,000 times 12%. That is how much?
Mwalimu wa maths. Let me help you with your phone so that you can
we can
do all that
this,
maths.
we can get this maths right.
So even as you continue, Philip, do you have more questions? No, pia to ruhusu more callers to call in. Philip, do you kama bado kuna sisi? All right, Amanda. Remember, you can always call in live. The number iko hapo chini kwa screen.
Now
0795045864. Okay.
This is 9,000.
9,000.
So at the point you are being paid.
So this is monthly. 9,000.
This is monthly. Your employer is giving him 15% of this. So 15% of that figure is 11 to 50. This is 15 for employer. So for Philip, in every month, his pension is 20,250. And let me tell you, the moment this money is deposited into to the pension administrator, it is no longer employers. It is fully for who? For Philip. So that is the advantage that Philip is having. Now, let's now get to this level. This 9,000 will not be taxed. So his taxable income will be 75K minus 9,000.
Okay.
And this 9,000, you will also add
for you, okay,
3480 for NSSF. So if the employer was not having this arrangement, you would have been you would have paid tax on 75,000, but now here you are paying tax on around 5620.
Compounding both of them.
Yes, this this is 12,480.
So
yes.
Wacha tuchukue simu nyingine. Simei kutoka Kawangware, habari asubuhi.
Mzuri sana.
Tumepatana tena, ni kitambo nikusikie. Ni kitambo tukue na yuko phone. Uko na swali leo ama ni uko na maoni?
Nataka kuuliza. Yes.
Yes, uliza.
Nasema hivi. Hiyo mahesabu yanafanya hapo yote ni sawa. But tuko na challenges huku nje inafaa wafuatilie.
Mko na nini hiyo?
Challenges.
Kuna challenges fulani. Sababu tuna wengine, hata mimi ninakatwa pesa. But my employer is not remitting my money in NSSF. Hiyo sasa wanatusaidia ama ni kufanya tu mahesabu?
Unasema employer
sababu sisi kama pesa yetu iweze kuwa remitted. Even as we are losing the interest from NSSF. Kama mimi nadai miezi nane pesa yangu haijatumwa NSSF.
Umefuatilia from NSSF yenyewe wakasema employer hajatuma.
Nimechukua hizo forms, nimejaza forms, nimerudisha kwa kilemu form, nimepeleka kwa kampuni, bado pesa iende. Sasa kama wanakaa kwa maofisi badala kufuatilia pesa ya wafanyakazi iende kwa NSSF, hiyo sasa wanatusaidia nini? Watatusaidiaje hiyo shida?
Natumai wanakusikiza leo asubuhi na wana watch hii show, wamekusikiza na maybe watafuatilia. Allow me to ask you this, Simiyu. Unapata how much na NSSF wakukate how much? Ndio pia tuone in those 8 months.
Taiwan nakatwa 420. Tunakatwa 1163. 1163.
Okay.
So okay. Wacha tujaribu sasa kupiga hesabu tuone na kama atakupatia any solution. Sawa, asante sana Simiyu. Salimia sana watu wa huko Kawangware. Okay, kama Simiyu ameenda. He raises a whole different bit here. Someone definitely had a whole plan, but things did not work out that way. How often does that happen?
In fact, with the current regulation, RBA has ensured that employers to remit. And for cases where there's non-remittance, then as you had advised, they need to follow up with both employer and NSSF. And if NSSF's record is showing that there's non-remittance, then they need to have a conversation with the employer, and the employer needs to remit the funds as required by the regulation.
Right. So earlier on you told us that the employer now has the liberty kutuma hii pesa either to NSSF or a private insurer.
Yes.
Right? So how now in such a kind of a situation, which is better? If I can use that, or rather which one will be more efficient?
Now, Both of them are efficient.
Okay.
But if you look at the requirement is that every month deduction is supposed to be remitted by 9th of every month. And non-remittance to this has got penalties. So the best way is that if the employer has not been remitting, then first they have to make sure that they are up to date. So they have to update their records. Number 2, after which they have to check now which mode is efficient to them.
Okay.
Are they going to the private sector? And you see, for the private sector, the interest is higher or is superior. Because if you, as I've told you, that average rate, the industry for 2022 was around 8.4. Let's say between 8.4 to 9.
Okay, to
9 there. So that we give it that variance. So, and then there are those.
Okay, before to delay, because I'm also curious how the private as well as how the rest look like. Philip is back from Bondo.
Okay.
Philip, tumeendelea na hii conversation. Uko na swali tena ama ni maoni?
I'm watching you live. Nimeona simu amuuliza swali lingine hapo, which may interest me. Because hata unajua from my history, mimi toka local government.
Okay.
So pension plan is on lap fund, lap trust, lap trust. But when we are transiting to county government, kuna kwa lapse ya 9 months ambayo nilikata kwa pay na kwa remitted. Transition authority ilisema county government yalipa up to date, county government ikata kulipa. So hiyo tunafanya aje?
Okay, umepata swali?
Nimepata kabisa.
So for the 9 months haikuwa remitted to NSSF ama?
Hiyo wakati wa transition haikuwa remitted.
So wacha tupate jibu tu sahi.
So for those that were not remitted, the employer ought to have a plan on how to remit. I know if there are several employees, the employer has to have an arrangement with the regulator. They need to meet with the regulator and tell the regulator the challenges that they have faced, because the regulator expects employers to be compliant 100%.
Okay.
Where there's non-compliance, employer needs to take responsibility and have a conversation with the regulator, so that the regulator, they can come up with an amicable solution on how to cap this. So they need to make to have a conversation with the regulator. They be advised, and in fact, in some cases, they may, depending on the fund, they may have regular remittance, either monthly, depending on how they will agree.
Right.
But basically, this depends on employer to employer, and as I've advised, is that let them take responsibility and have conversation with the regulator, because everything of pension is under regulation.
Let's break it down, how the private way would look like, and also the NSSF way from the employer now. Let's say either Philip or Simiyu or Kachina employers. So is it you as the employee who decides, rather talks to the employer and says, yangu yende to a private or rather to NSSF? How does that work?
Good. Now, there is a regulation on moving to either private or continue with an SSF. Now that regulation states there are several, in fact there are 6 requirements. Now, it is the decision of the employer, just like for example, you in TV47, when you joined and you having been confirmed, then you are told that a certain percentage of your basic pay will be remitted.
Okay.
Automatically you comply, because there are some of the things that you can't debate with over 100 people. So these regulations are also to help to make things easy.
Okay.
So at the point that the employer decides to move to the other sector, then they need to notify the employees of the decision that they are taking.
So now, if the employer decides to go the private
sector
insurer way,
yes.
the private sector way. To adiki how these rates will look like, so that ndio jue, if I was to go the NSSF route, this is how much, let's say they're 25, tulitumia example ya Brian tukianza.
Yes.
So the next 35 years, this is what they'd have. Comparing to the private sector, this is what they'd have.
I think now we go to the template.
Okay.
Yes.
You have your phone. So even as you have that, let's have Philip from kutoka wapi Philip? Nairobi, hapa tu Nairobi. Philip, habari asubuhi?
Mzuri sana.
Asante sana kwa kutupigia. Uko na swali, uko na maoni kuhusiana na masuala ya pension planning?
Yes, maswali yangu ni kwamba hasa sana katika counties wale tunafanya katika county. Counties zinakataa kujaza malipo yetu yale ambayo tumefanya yale ambayo tumechangia.
Okay.
Unapata kwamba kama saizi nikiangalia katasi yangu nilikuwa na county 2017, niliingia 2018. Na nilikalipiwa mwezi wa January, February. Sasa March, April, hiyo mwezi yote mpaka mwisho hiyo mwaka hakuna kitu kingine kililipwa.
Hiyo ni 2018.
Hiyo ni 2018.
Okay.
2017 pia ililipwa September, kutoka January mpaka August haikulipwa. Ikakuja nikakoa 400 kutoka September mpaka December. Aya, yani hiyo yote mpaka sasa 2018, 2017, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. Hiyo miezi ine hata shilingi moja haijaingia.
Haijaremitiwa to NSSF.
Hakuna katasi, ni empty kabisa, hakuna kitu. Sasa when you calculate this, the amount that maybe katika miaka 5 nimekuwa kwa hiyo count, useme ni kama 1000 ngapi hivi, ni pesa kidogo, haifiki 1014, na kama ni kidogo sana kwa sababu ameweka miezi 3 miezi 2, zile zingine ni colors hakuna. Sasa how do you do about it? Because now I'm 60 years, for example, I've retired. Yeah, I cannot ask for another job maybe in a government sector.
Kweli.
Well, tutasaidika namna gani? Kwa sababu kila napoenda kwa NSSF hakuna kitu wanasema tutafuatilia. Hivyo tu. Na wale nao sahizi huwezi kuwafikia kwa sababu kila mtu hayuko kwa ofisi. Ukienda kwa ile ofisi hakuna mtu. Ukienda kwa ofisi ya treasury ya wapi hakuna mtu. Tufanyaje? Kwa sababu sasa okay, hii pesa labda hatisemi hivyo, lakini Mungu in case anichukue sahizi, hii pesa itaenda kwa nani? That is the question. They don't want to pay her.
Right.
Yeah.
Pole sana kwa hayo Philip, and hopefully again NSSF wanasikiza. Next time I think tunafaa sasa tutafute mtu NSSF wajibie all this kind of questions, but asante sana Kimole for talking to us, and again pole sana for all that. Hopefully just follow up on how hiyo itakuwa. Salimia sana watu wa Nairobi pahali mko, and continue watching Morning Cafe. This is the second, again from a county, so it looks like it's a whole, it cuts across in different counties. Now, I may raise some important questions because now on time imesonga. I may raise some important questions. An employer changes, so does that again mean, let's say employer A alikuja na the private sector way, employer B akakuja kona pana, he maybe inatumalizia pesa or something, we go to a different route, and again he raises a whole bit of, so what happens to your pension plan if you pass away and you're not yet into the retirement age?
Oh, yes. Now, when you pass away, these are your savings and they're supposed to be given now to your beneficiaries. And the advice I can give is that each and every person who is in who has a pension plan anywhere or somewhere, they have to make sure that their biodata is updated, so that in case of that eventuality, then the right person will be paid. So let me tell you one thing.
And even as you answer
Yes,
Kimole.
as I answer Kimole, is that pension fund is under irrevocable trust. That means that an employer cannot say that now this plan is difficult, let me move to the other one. And if they were to do such, an employer can also not decide that now because I had started for the last 10 years, now I'm not able to, then I stop there. And then the money will never get lost.
So
I am assuring...
long and short of it that when they follow up, the money has to be there.
The money has to be there. Let me tell you, pension plan, its money can never be lost.
So give me your last thoughts. Again, an advice and appear some tips zenye watu wanafaa kujua very briefly as we wrap it up.
Now, an advice I can give is that today we are young, tomorrow we will get old. Let's look for the future. And one thing that we need to understand is that how do you want your lifestyle to be?
Fantastic.
And when you start early, then you will not need more money to save for a shorter time because you will have the power of compounding.
Asante sana.
Yes, and by parting short, I know time is up.
In some few seconds, yes.
Yes, is that when you save today, you may be broke today because you have saved, but it is better it is better for you to be broke when saving than being broke when impressing.
I love that. Victor Ndago, asante sana, pension supervisor at Kenya Orient Life Assurance Limited. Asante sana back at home, wherever you're watching us from. Kwa wale wamepiga sana, akina Philip, kutoka Bondo, akina Simiyu, and every single person who's watching this. In case you just joined